Y'all already know what it is. We about to talk about it. It's Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. It's Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Good for boxing. We about to talk about it. Yes, yes, y'all. Yep. Wait till some people get on here. Let me share this real quick. Yep. Oh yeah. So today it was announced that Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson will be taking place July 20th, Dallas, where the Dallas Cowboys play. Now, I want to know what you guys think. Is this good for boxing or is this bad for boxing? But we're going to talk about both sides of it because honestly, I'm kind of torn in the middle of what I think and is this a good idea for boxing right now, especially for where Jake Paul is. He claims he wants to be a world champion. He claims he wants to fight the best of the best at some point. Canelo Alvarez. He say he wants to fight, all the top guys within his weight range. But is he on the right path of doing it? We're gonna talk about it, man. Let's talk about it. So, as far as let's talk about, he's fighting the legendary Hall of Fame knockout king, the baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson, one of the greatest heavyweight fighters of all time. Now, Mike Tyson, in his career, he's 50 wins, 6 losses, two no contests with no draws. He has 44 wins by way of knockout. Okay. And thank you for tuning in, bro. Debo918, thank you for tuning in. So that's Mike Tyson's record, man. And when we all know when Mike Tyson was Mike Tyson, man, in the 80s, it was nobody could compete with Mike Tyson. That's what he had, that invincible aura around him. It was like if you stepped in the ring with Mike Tyson, we know one or two things is gonna happen. You going to sleep, he collecting a check and adding to his resume. That's what was happening with Mike Tyson. Now, we all know Mike Tyson, after he took his first loss to Buster Douglas, man, we can come up with everything about why he lost to Buster Douglas, but he lost. Ultimately, he lost. Mike Tyson is 57 years old. 57. Okay, Jake Paul is what, 26, 27 years old? Yeah, that is a big age gap. That's one of the biggest age gaps we've seen so far. Now, let's talk about the negative side of this right here. Okay, so Jake Paul, he's decently skilled. I would say Jake Paul is right around being a prospect in the sport of boxing. A prospect meaning, you're not a novice, you're not a beginner, you're not considered a contender, you're not one of the top guys, you're right like in this mid-level, and if you want to be a world champion, why are you not fighting guys who will elevate your skill level? That's what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, I guarantee you. Yeah, Iron Mike knocked Jake Paul out in his prime. Put 22-year-old Iron Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. I guess you want to say this is his prime right now. Oh man, you'd be crazy not to bet on Mike Tyson. Let's talk about it, man. So again, Jake Paul said he wants to be a world champion someday. So he fights with between 185 to 200 pounds. So that's around the cruiserweight limit. because the that's the cruiserweight limit. Because anything above 175 pounds up to 200 pounds is cruiserweight. So you got guys in that class like Ja Apataya, you got Badu Jack, some just two of the guys who are one of the top two of the top guys that are cruiserweights. Now we know Canelo Alvarez wanted to fight Badu Jack for his cruiserweight title at the time, but Canelo Alvarez was trying to put him on this weight drain. He wanted Badu Jack to come down to, I believe it was 180 and not weigh more than 5 pounds the next day of the fight, which is weight draining your opponent. We know Canelo Alvarez at this point in his career, he's being safe. That's why he hasn't fought David Benavidez yet. We all can see that. But let's get back to the case in point, man. This Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight. You know, you got 50 wins in your career. Mike Tyson has fought one time since 2011, and that win is when he fought Roy Jones Jr. in that exhibition fight. Don't get me wrong. I thought Mike Tyson looked good for being out of the ring for what 15 years or whatnot. What was that? 2011. They fought in 2021, 2020, something like that. So X amount of years. I thought Mike Tyson looked good. But at the same time, 50 plus years old. Don't get me wrong. I thought Roy Jones looked good. He didn't look in the best shape, but I thought he looked good for what the fight was. It was an exhibition. Okay, cool. But he's fought one time in that time. So they announced this fight, and he was out of shape before the XO. Yeah, he was very out of shape. I agree. He only had about, I want to say he only had about 2.5 months worth of training. And you know, when you get to that age, you know, putting in the miles and everything is one of the hardest things to do. So yeah, he was very out of shape. I agree with you. 100%. But when you put, you know, somebody like Mike Tyson in this type of fight, I'm not saying Mike Tyson is a slouch, because for anybody, Mike Tyson is still one of the best, and not one of the best, but for any average person, we'll say that he's one of the top guys you can find. Even Roy Jones Jr. You said 5 months of training into that at that age. Yeah, okay, yeah, 5 months of training. Yeah, 5 months of training. Because I believe he was trying to get Evander Holyfield to do the fight, but then Holyfield backed out, and he ended up fighting like Tito Ortiz or something and getting knocked out. Yeah, I think you're right. But nonetheless, he's 5'10", 71-inch reach, and you know, Jake Paul, I think he's like, what is he like, 6'1", 6'2", with a 76-inch reach or something like that. I'm not saying he's going to go in there and wash Mike Tyson. I don't personally believe he will, because Mike Tyson, he's cut from a different cloth. He's cut from the era of, you're going to have to knock me the hell out and keep me on the canvas before I let you stop me type of. Mike Tyson is just cut different. Now, let's get to it. Jake Paul, in his short resume, he's 9-1, and he's only fought 3 boxers in that time. The first time he fought a boxer, he fought Tommy Fury, who is the younger brother of Tyson Fury, and he lost that fight. A lot of you guys were saying, oh, I think Jake Paul won that fight. Well, let's be clear. Jake Paul lost every round except the round that he knocked Tommy Fury down. And even in that knockdown, it's some areas of boxing, they'll review a knockdown and they'll call it a slip or they'll call it a knockdown. He slipped. They reviewed it. He slipped, but they still counted it as a knockdown. So do you think Jake Paul has enough experience and skill to fight Mike? I would say at this age, he has enough experience and skill. But I won't say he has I would say he has enough experience to fight him. But skill wise, you know, when you live boxing and you doing this day in and day out, and you're fighting other fighters, not the best fighters, when you're coming up and you're fighting other fighters who are active and they live boxing, yes, that's something that makes a difference. So I would say yes, he has enough experience probably to fight if this was a novice, but you can say yeah. We'll just say yeah. We'll say yeah. He has enough experience to fight Mike Tyson. Now, with Jake Paul, he fought Tommy Fury. Like I said, he knocked Tommy Fury down. He ended up losing that fight. He lost that fight. He complained. He was wanting to do a petition like KSI was trying to do. He was trying to do all that. You lost the fight, brother. And that right there, and after that fight, what did he do? Fired his whole team. Fired his whole team. Everybody that was in his circle aren't in his circle no more. He let them all go because he understood that if he wants to make it to the next level, he is going to have to take this serious. It's not just for show. There are a lot of sports in this world that you can play. You play football, you play basketball, you play soccer, you play baseball, but you cannot play boxing. In the words of Snoop Dogg, you can play a lot of things, but you can't play boxing and you can't play this pimping. But for real though, after that fight, fired his whole team. Then he went into a fight with I think it was either Anderson Silva or Nate Diaz. Had a 10-rounder with both of those guys. Honestly, he dropped both of them, and both of those guys got heart. We seen their MMA careers time and time over. They both got heart, so they're not just going to stay down. You're going to have to put them down. And understanding the difference between a Tyron Woodley, no disrespect to Tyron Woodley, but a difference between a Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva and Nate Diaz is Anderson Silva and Nate Diaz. They are real, true fighters. They're not boxers, but they're fighters. They're not just going to lay down. Tyron Woodley made the mistake that nobody in this world would make. Put your hands down and take a right hand from anybody. You lay down for a check. The first fight, I thought Tyron Woodley probably got a draw out of that fight. The second fight, clearly, you got knocked the fuck out. So, they're MMA fighters, though. They don't train in boxing. Yeah, you're right. They are MMA fighters. They don't train in boxing. I had one of my friends say, oh, yeah, boxing and MMA, it's one and the same. It's pretty much the same thing. No, the hell it's not. In MMA, a training regimen for MMA versus boxing is very, very different. In MMA, you're training stand-up, you're training on the ground, you're training submissions, you're training how to take down, you're training how to stop a takedown, you're training how to work the cage, you're training how to move towards the cage if you're on your back, you're training two different things. You're training for so many different things when it comes to MMA that it literally takes away from the focus of just boxing. And I told her, I said, man, you crazy as hell if you think the average MMA fighter can go in and compete in boxing rules with the average boxer. And vice versa. I'll say vice versa. The average boxer go in and compete with the average MMA fighter in MMA rules. Now, we got some, few anomalies along the way. Clarissa Shields, she's making her way. She's having a hard time, but she's proven herself and going into boxing, and she's learning, and she has gotten better. You got fighters like Holly Holm, who made the jump from MMA to boxing. From boxing to MMA, and she was really good, for a spell. She was an outstanding boxer, and she became a really good UFC champion MMA fighter. So she made the transition really well. Amanda Serrano is another example. But definitely it can be done, but it takes time. It's not one and the same. Clarissa will be a great boxer. Oh yeah, she is a great boxer now. I think she'll be a great MMA fighter if she puts more focus towards MMA. Don't get me wrong. In my opinion, I think Clarissa Shields. Um, I think Clarissa Shields, if she'd retired right now from boxing, I think she'll be a Hall of Fame fighter in boxing. And if she focused from 27 years old on into MMA, I think she could go on and be a Hall of Fame MMA fighter because she's proven herself in just 3 fights. Man, I'm trying to join the stream for the time. Oh yeah, hey, who is that? Burner, yeah. Depending on what I got going, I might do a live stream for that fight if I'm in town. Because right now I'm planning on being at that fight, getting my credentials so I can be at the open workouts and get some interviews and stuff done. But back to the case in point though, man. If Jake Paul wants to be a world champion, you cannot rank up and be a world champion fighting fighters, no disrespect, but fighters like Mike Tyson, fighters like MMA fighters, and become a world champion. In this day and age, it is easy to become a world champion because there's so many sanctioning bodies. There's 4 major, for y'all that don't know, there's 4 major sanctioning bodies. There's a WBA, which is the oldest. Then there's a WBC, there's there's IBF, and then there's the WBO. 4 major sanctioning bodies. You have the Ring Magazine title, but it's not an official sanctioning body. It's like kind of like the lineal title. Now, it's easy to win one of those 4 titles. Look at Rolando Rolly Romero. Everybody and their mama knew he was losing that fight to Ishmael Barroso. Ishmael Barroso is 42 years old now. Rolly Romero is like 26, 27. No, he's 25 years old. He was losing that fight. He got knocked down in that fight. And the one time he got a little flurry going, Tony Meeks, the referee, made a bad decision. He acknowledged it, and he called that fight. Ishmael Barroso should be world champion right now. He's the Rolly Romero is the weakest 140-pound champion you can think of right now. You got Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, you got Sabril Matias, and Rolly Romero. Rolly Romero can't beat none of those guys. Why do we want to fight Mike so bad? Mike is not even fighting. Well, I'll tell you why he wants to fight Mike Tyson. And this is what I said. I was on a podcast recently. It's called Come Through Tulsa Sports Podcast. Y'all make sure y'all go follow that podcast, by the way. Great podcast. Come Through Tulsa, and then there's Come Through Tulsa Sports Podcast. Go follow them both. But the reason he wants to fight Mike Tyson is this. So Amanda Serrano was supposed to have a fight last weekend. It was going to be the main event of a unified title fight for her. 3 days out from the fight, she was trying some new hair products, and her skin on her face, around her eye, in the corner of her eye, started having a real bad reaction, right? And she said she had her personal doctor come to her house and check her out. At that point, the personal doctor said she shouldn't take the fight. Now, they knew that 3 days out. But the doctor said if you do this little treatment, it may improve or it may not. Leading up to the fight, the night of the fight, every fight goes on. Jake Paul, his fight is going on. He gets his little first round knockout. Right after that fight was supposed to be Amanda Serrano versus her opponent. They came into the ring to announce that the fight was off. Why did they do that? Because they know, as famous and many people follow Jake Paul, his stock was going down. Why was his stock going down? Because you're fighting guys who aren't boxers. Let me say that again. You're fighting guys who aren't boxers. It's not that you're fighting guys who are older or something like that. You're fighting guys who don't box consistently. They knew that if they said the main event is off, nobody would have tuned in to the zone to watch Jake Paul fight that fight. Man was just talking. Was walking on it. Okay. Hey, I don't know if he was on a cane or not, but he damn near there because he's about to be 60 years old. But they knew if they would have called off Amanda Serrano's fight, that whole card would have blew up. Nobody would have tuned in. Nobody would have even gave it a thought. And Jake Paul stayed in the ring, which after you fight, you never stay in the ring. You do your interview and then you out the ring. Amanda Serrano was in the ring. Her promoter was in the ring. They had a translator there for all the Puerto Rican people. You know, props to them. They gave all the people that showed up 100% refund. That's fine. And that's cool. You know what I'm saying? But it goes to show you that when you keep fighting guys, like call me up and fight me. What credit are you going to get for fighting me? You know? I mean, I had an amateur fight. But what credit are you going to get for that? None. So when you go fighting these guys who literally are not active, the guy he fought one time in the past 5 years. He's 17-2, but he's 36 years old, fought one time in the past 5 years. Literally, what do you think is going to do that? What is that going to do for you? Mike must need to check. Oh, well, and you know what? Mike Tyson in his last exhibition fight, he donated his whole purse to charity. You know, he's been on that whole kick of donating and raising money for charity. So I don't know. Not a boxer. He has other obligations to. Yeah, you know what? I agree with that. You know, Mike Tyson is a hell of a trainer. If you go back and look what he did for Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury, nobody expected Francis Ngannou to put up that type of fight, including myself, with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is the lineal WBC heavyweight champion, meaning you are the best of the best out there, the lineal champion. And he knocked him on his ass and hit that little dance move on him. I was like, okay. So, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm in the garage. I got my garage open. Y'all know the weather's good. But yeah, Francis Ngannou took the training with Mike Tyson and literally looked like he could be a boxer. He's 30 plus years old. So you know, tomorrow he fights Francis Ngannou fights Anthony AJ Joshua. You know, I gave y'all my final predictions on that. If you haven't seen it, go on through the videos. It's there. I think that's going to be an interesting fight, but, you know, it is what it is, you know. So what do you guys really think, man? I want to know where Jake Paul is. Do you got guys like like I said, Ja Apataya, who's the Ring Magazine Cruiserweight champion. You got Badu Jack, who was the WBC Cruiserweight champion. And these guys, they're not your average guys. These guys are like 19-0 with 18 knockouts, man. Badu Jack, he's 38, 39 years old, but he won his last couple fights by knockout over guys that are in their 20s. So, you know, Jake Paul needs to fight a boxer that's worth the fight. I agree. He needs to fight somebody that, I'm not saying fight the best guys. I don't want to see Jake Paul get destroyed by the best guys just yet. You know, you call out Canelo and all those guys. You're not ready for those guys whatsoever on anybody's level. I want to see Jake Paul fight guys that are near the same record. He's 9-1. Okay, cool. Fight somebody that's 9-1. Fight somebody that is 10-0. Fight somebody that's 12-0. Around that. Because when you're in that range, like once you're 10 fights in, you are in the prospect range. If you haven't been fast tracked. And if you don't know what fast track means, look at Vasily Lomachenko. He was fast tracked. He had like 400 plus amateur fights. He was 2-time Olympic gold medalist. So when he turned pro, they pretty much was like, look, we want you to be a world champion right off the bat. So in his second or third fight, he was world champion already. I'm not saying that's what Jake Paul needs to do. What I am saying is you're in the prospect range. Hell, it's guys here from Oklahoma. Look at Jeremiah Dreamland Milton. He's 10-0, 11-0, something like that. Fight him. He a 200+ pounder. He over in Saudi Arabia right now, training with Francis Ngannou. He was sparring with Francis Ngannou. He sparred with Anthony Joshua. Fight him. He's 200+ pounds. You know, I don't think Jake Paul can beat him, though. I'll be honest with you. Because if you know anything about Jeremiah Milton, he went viral for knocking somebody out. And, you know, I'm just saying, though, you got to fight these guys who are on your level. You got to fight these guys who are consistent in boxing. Consistent in boxing. That means boxing is what they do. Boxing is what they want to do. It's their life. It's the thing that they build their life on. You gotta box those type of guys. You cannot be 12-0, 13-0, 14-0, 14-1, whatever he's on this trajectory of fighting guys like Sean O'Malley out of the UFC or Israeli Adesanya, who don't consistently box. Don't get me wrong, I seen his record in boxing, but he don't consistently box no more. So, you know, it's a little bit of different. But let's bring it back to one of my main points that I was going to make earlier. Is a lot of people, they want to talk about, you know, the legends and who they fought early in their career. Let's talk about it. So, in Mike Tyson's first 10 fights, he fought Hector Mercedes, Trent Singleton, Don Heflin, Ricardo Spain, John Anderson, Larry Sims, Lorenzo Canati, Michael Johnson, Donnie Long, and Robert Coley. And most of those were first round knockouts. All those guys were either debuts, they had bad records, and all that. Again, Jake Paul, we're not saying fight the best guys in your first 10 to 15 fights. But the difference between all of these guys that I just named and the guys you fought, I can pick out 8 of these guys who will beat everybody you fought so far, Jake Paul. Because these guys were actual boxers. They fought. None of these guys were MMA fighters. You can look up their box rec right now. You can see their records. They ain't the best guys. Hell, most of these guys you never even heard of. But you go on and look them up, they were boxing. They were living the boxing life. Mike Tyson made it to 16-0. He fought David Jocko. David Jocko finished his career 24 wins, 25 losses. Again, we're not saying fight the best guys. He had 19 knockouts. We're not saying fight the best guys. Then he fought Jesse Ferguson. Finished his career 26 wins, 18 losses. Again, we're not saying fight the best guys. I'm just doing this to prove a point. He fought James Quick Tillis from Oklahoma, by the way. Quick Tillis, 31 wins by knockout, 42 wins, 22 losses, 1 draw. Not the best, not the worst. Shout out to Quick Tillis, though. I went to school and played ball with a couple of his relatives. But again, you see, we're not saying fight the best guys. But at that point, when he fought Quick Tillis, he was 20-0. Quick Tillis had a better record, it looked, when they fought. Then you go up, he fought Trevor Berbick. And Berbick was good at 28-0. Trevor Berbick, 49 wins, 11 losses, 1 draw. You see what the change starts right there? Start to fight guys that are above where he's at. Okay? Then he fought, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 5 fights later, he fought Larry Holmes for the first time, 33-0. Larry Holmes. We all know Larry Holmes. 69 wins, 6 losses. Come on, Jake Paul. Come on, Jake Paul. He's heavyweight champion by this point. Knocked out Trevor Burbick for the heavyweight title. So all I'm saying is, if you want to be a heavyweight champion, or if you want to be a champion, period. If you want to be a champion in this sport, you have to live that life, man. And on top of that, let's talk about what it means to live the boxing life. So Jake Paul is about, what is he, about 6'2", something like that. And he fights at fucking 200 pounds. Anywhere from light heavyweight up to cruiserweight is what Jake Paul fights at, right? So if you are 6'1", 200 pounds, tell me what cruiserweight are you gonna beat to be a world champion? Because I just named two I know you can't beat. Ja Apataye got all knockouts on his record. Badou Jack, 38, 39 years old, he ain't losing to nobody in that in your class. So Jake Paul is 9 wins, 1 loss, 6 wins by way of knockout. And you fight between light heavyweight and cruiserweight. So I think the lightest he's fought at was 180 pounds. And he's fought up to 200 pounds. So he's a cruiserweight. Okay, cool. You're a cruiserweight. At 6'1", 76 arm reach. Yeah, I was right. What are you going to do when it comes to the point where you have to start cutting weight? He can fight Arthur. Nah, he ain't ready for... you talking about Better Beef? Arthur Better Beef? 20 wins, 20... Come on, bro. 20 wins? 20 wins by way of knockout? Nah. He not ready for that. Nah. Let's talk about one of Arthur Beterbiev's last opponents. Not his last opponent, but one of his opponents. The guy David Benavidez is about to fight, Oleksandr Gvastik. When he fought Arthur Beterbiev, he spent 3 nights in the hospital and he didn't fight for another 40 months. That's crazy, ain't it? Arthur Beterbiev put that man in the hospital for 3 nights and he didn't fight for another 40 months. And Oleksandr Gvastik is a boxer. He lives the life. So what do you think would happen with Jake Paul? I just gotta be real honest. I gotta be honest. They say on average 13 boxers lose their life or suffer some type of life-changing injury and they never fight again. If Jake Paul were to fight Arthur Beterbiev, that would be the end of his career as we know it. And the only person, I mean, let's say this. Dmitry Bivol and David Benavidez are the only 2 people I can see beating him. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, yep, that's 100% true. You can't play this sport, man. You can't play this sport. Your life is on the line. I mean, don't get me wrong. I played football and I've seen some bad injuries. You know, I've seen some injuries where one of my good friends from around town, his name is Emeka. He played for a semi-pro team. He suffered a neck injury, and it life changing. You know, he's confined to a wheelchair, whatever. You know, but he's a cool guy. But life goes on in a different way in those type of sports. In boxing, once this is gone, life is done. So if he was to fight Arthur Beterbiev, I think Jake Paul would suffer a major injury. Because just like I said, Gvastik, he literally was out of the ring for 40 months. He could have had 2 or 3 kids in that time. But because of the injuries that he suffered and the time that he needed off versus the time at the end of that where he was just couldn't get a fight, he was out of there. Oh yeah, people get hurt, man. Jake Paul not ready for no boxer. Heavyweight caliber. Yeah, he's not ready for those. That's why I'm asking the question. Do you think Jake Paul is good for versus Mike Tyson is good or bad for boxing? I think this is good for Jake Paul's career, overall for boxing, until we get the best guys fighting the best guys, we gotta say it's good for boxing, I guess, because it's the entertainment value. That's all it is. It's the entertainment value. I think it's good for boxing as far as entertainment, but as far as the fans of boxing and the people who love and enjoy the sport, I don't think it's really good for boxing in that regards. But the entertainment value, the showmanship, him putting other boxers on the world stage, it's good for boxing in that regards. But yeah, man, outside of that, there's no way anybody can tell me that this guy is ready for the big stage and the best boxers. I'm about to pull up. Let me pull up this list of the current cruiserweight champions so we can clarify my point. This ain't the list. Yeah, give me a second, y'all. I gotta pull up these lists because I'm just trying to. But he wants a heavyweight title. He's never gonna win a heavyweight title. No. Jake Paul's never gonna win a heavyweight title. Let's just keep this in perspective. The heavyweight titles are all taken up right now. You got Tyson Fury, the lineal WBC champion. He couldn't beat him if Tyson Fury was asleep. He couldn't beat him. Then you got Alexander Usyk, the unified WBA, WBO, IBF Ring Magazine champion. Nah, he couldn't beat any of those guys, man. Usyk is too slick and he's a southpaw. I want to see Jake Paul fight a southpaw that is slick and skilled. Usyk is just too slick. You see what he did to Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua couldn't do nothing with him in 2 fights. And I was watching Anthony Joshua in the first fight. He just looked like, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The second fight, he was okay. But ultimately, Usyk is just too skilled, too slick. So, at cruiserweight, Chris Billum Smith is the WBO champion. The IBF champion is vacant. Then you got Arsen Galamarian is the WBA, and Nuria Mekelajan is the WBC. And I don't think he can beat any of those guys. And then you go down to light heavyweight, Artur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol got all the titles. He's not beating either one of those guys. He said he wants to fight Canelo. Clearly, Canelo is the undisputed super middleweight champion. He can't beat him. He can't beat David Benavidez, David Morrell. Man, I don't know who this guy gonna fight. Yeah, Anthony Joshua got to get his stamina up. Because I think it was about round 6, 5 to 6. From then on, in both the Usyk fights, he was gassed out and he was getting pieced up. I mean, it was Usyk's, slick counter moves, his up jabs, and his up jabs is over the top, just pat, 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 all up on him. He was just putting the pieces together, and he couldn't do nothing. Now, what I do want to know is every time Jake Paul does a press conference, he always says he's sparring world champions. I want to know who these world champions are. Now, for y'all that don't know, like I said, there's 4 major sanctioning belts. WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO. Those are the major ones you want to win. Those are the ones you want to fight for to be recognized by the world as world champion. You got all these secondary titles like the IBO, which they are heavily trying to push the IBO as a major title. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, if the IBO ever becomes a major title, you will never see an undisputed champion again. But you got titles like the IBO, WBU, you got, WBF, the IBU, IBC, you got all these secondary titles. Are he fighting these guys that are world champions? Because You know, Roy Jones Jr., he won the WBU championship when he was a heavyweight at one point. At Tarver, he won that one. Bernard Hopkins, he won a couple of those secondary titles. But are those the world champions that you're fighting? I mean, don't get me wrong. If I go out right now and say I beat LeBron James in a one-on-one basketball game, the world's gonna know about that, right? Because that's LeBron James. Like he, even Steph Curry, you know, KD, Kevin Durant. If I beat one of them guys in a one-on-one basketball game, the world's gonna know about it because those are the guys you want to prove yourself, right? Um, those are the guys you want to prove yourself against. But if I go and beat Isaiah Thomas, who just signed with a G League team, you know, who's gonna know about that? And who's gonna take me serious even though I beat him? Nobody. That's why I don't take Jake Paul serious like that. When he was lined up to fight Hasim Rahman, Hasim Rahman Jr., he wanted Hasim Rahman to lose 27 pounds to fight originally he wanted Hasim Rahman to fight at 190. Then he raised the limit up to 200 pounds. But what he failed to realize is Hasim Rahman fights at 227 pounds, meaning his walk around weight is probably about 230, probably 240. You know, you get in shape, you drop the weight. You're trying to weight drain the cat. Why not? You fighting at 200 now. Why not fight at the heavyweight limit? Because he know what Hasim Rahman Jr. was going to bring to the table. I'm not saying Hasim Rahman is like what his father was as a fighter. You know, his father even said it. You know, he lives a different life. You know, when you come from the bottom and you scraping and you fighting, you just have a different type of heart. Junior, he's not cut from that same cloth. No disrespect, but he's just a little different. But with Jake Paul, he realized, okay, if I can get this guy to drain down to this weight and then I fight him and I knock him out, what are people gonna say at that point? Because I knocked out a heavyweight fighter. Now, we recognize the type of fighter and what you were trying to do. That's what it was. And they never fought. I would love to see Hasim Rahman Jr. revisit this fight with Jake Paul now that Jake Paul is fighting at the 200 limit. Because everybody need to remember, 200 and above is a heavyweight. They trying to make these little weight classes now in between called bridger weight and whatever else. But, you know, anything above 200, it's all heavyweight. I feel like they're scripted. I mean, hey, they can be scripted like the WWE type of deal, or he could be paying these guys to take a dive. Because I was watching somebody's stream and they was like, you know, watch when Jake Paul give the signal, you see Tyron Woodley's hands go down and then bam, he was out. I was like, hey, that was kind of crazy. But nonetheless, man, I want to know, is Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson good for boxing or bad for boxing? Good for the publicity, and it's going to be free on Netflix. So they put it on Netflix, promoted by MVP Promotions, which is cool. I hope that Shadesha Green gets an opportunity to fight on that card. Because I did an interview with Shadesha Green a little while back. You can go back in my videos and see that. Awesome fighter, awesome person. I hope she gets a chance to fight on that. But is it good for boxing or is it bad for boxing? Can Jake Paul become a world champion, official for one of the 4 major belt world champions, or will he just be this kind of sideshow YouTube sensation for the rest of his career? I want to know, man. Y'all let me know. Good for one side of my, but it's not good for boxing. Hey, that's what I'm thinking, man. It's kind of hard to tell at this point. I know if this was on pay-per-view with Mike Tyson's name attached to it, they would sell some pay-per-views and make some money. That's for damn sure. They would make some money. But outside of that, I don't know. I think this is all where Jake Paul's kind of cap and limit is. You know, you fight these older guys. You fight these guys that are older MMA fighters who can't move and their feet are stuck in stone. I think this, if he doesn't start fighting guys that are, you know, where his level is, where his ranking or his boxing record is, I think this is the end of Jake Paul. But all in all, man, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for commenting. I'm about to get on out of here. I got a few videos I'm about to upload. So y'all stay tuned. I appreciate y'all. Be sure to follow, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, drop a super thanks in the super chat. We going live, man. Thank y'all. Peace.